Our people must be well informed with the truth for us to make educated decisions. It's time to take our nation back.
Hidden inside every headline is the truth, and the truth must be told. I'm Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a combat veteran and former advisor to the Secretary of Defense. For 50 years, I've witnessed the various ways in which the truth is twisted and contorted to support narratives that Washington's ruling political class needs to justify their actions. My new show, Macgregor, is a quest for authenticity, a search for the truth and what's important to Americans. For too many people in power, when the truth is ugly, only a lie can be beautiful. We will expose the deceptions, the lies, wherever we find them, and lay bare the facts. We will take no prisoners in our fight for the truth. We know the ruling classes in every country dislike the truth unless it benefits them. But citizens of every country deserve the truth. They deserve the facts, just as soldiers deserve honesty. From Ukraine, the Middle East, and the Caribbean Basin to America's southern border and the suburbs of Chicago, I promise you the raw truth that only an uncompromising combat soldier can provide. I hope you will join us in the weeks ahead as we pursue the truth behind the headlines. Our topic today is the Mexican border. 1,200 miles in length, a place of incalculable importance to Americans, the soft underbelly of American national security. We talked to a range of people, lots of influential people with a variety of experiences on the border with illegal immigration and about immigration in general. And they gave us a brilliant overview of something that you really can't appreciate until you talk to the people that are knee-deep in it. The best way to learn about the border, of course, is to go to it, and we were lucky. We found early on a man named Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers. It's kind of a legend on the border, I'm not kidding, all 1,250 miles of it, which is Texas border. And he set us in the right direction, got us to meet the right people. I think you'll enjoy what he has to say.
This place here, because of its proximity to the border, especially this is Normandy, Quemado. So Normandy is the number one crossing point right now for what we call interesting traffic. And those are people that are coming across that don't want to go through ports of entry. The witching hour is between 1 to 2 o'clock, about 4 in the morning. The numbers have drastically decreased since Trump's been in office, of course.
That's good news.
That's great news, but that makes these people more interesting on top of it. Think about that, because now you've got guys that are trying to bring things across, fentanyl, guns, and people of interest come across going north into the U.S., and then money goes south. So we're watching both sides, because money in forms of bundles will go south. So in this particular area, because it is such a low water crossing, and there's just a wide open space, this is Maverick County on the border of Kinney County. We will be meeting with Sheriff Coe later. He's the sheriff of Kinney. There's not a lot of law enforcement. And because you're talking about 1,250 miles of Texas border, sometimes on Operation Lone Star, we played what we called whack-a-mole. I'm sure you've done this downrange with different enemy forces. We see that, and they understand our techniques and practices as we do theirs. So in doing that, I came here as a civilian with my horse and my dog. We came over here and met Miss Lori, and we helped her to deny territory, if you will, or to keep the cartel off of back. We had a convoy that came to the border from, it started in Virginia. It ended up here. It's about 100 trucks and all vehicles and trucks that brought some attention to this in a First Amendment type rally, which is freedom of speech, saying, hey, this is America. We can talk about this. We're tired of what's happening on the border under the Biden administration. Now we don't have that problem per se, but we still have the remnants, the second and third order effects of what is an invasion on the border.
I think it's very important. He just told you 1,250 miles just with Texas. Remember, we have an 1,800-mile border if we go from the Pacific to the Atlantic. So this is a huge, huge section of the border, and already we're finding out there's not enough law enforcement to deal with this vast territory. So keep that in mind as we go forward, especially when we talk to Sheriff Coe, what he has to do, what he's dealing with.
What we're seeing and what we were being told is complete 180. I mean, we had illegal aliens from every country you could think of that came through here. We were seeing huge amounts of smuggling. We were fortunate. We did not see the children being smuggled through here like other parts of the country. But we never really, even during my career, we never saw a lot of children coming through here. And that's one of the things that the American people, especially the people in New York, California, Illinois, don't understand, that we as Texans took the bull by the horns, used our money, not federal money, but state money, to control this, to try to get it under control, to step up and do what President Biden would not do.
But how successful were you? Because you had the Biden administration operating against you, right?
They were operating against us, but as far as Kenny County was going, we were prosecuting everything we could put our hands on. In a 3-year period, we prosecuted over 2,000 human smugglers and probably close to 5,000 trespassers. It didn't matter if they were male, female. We were catching juveniles that said, well, I'm a juvenile, you're going to have to cut me loose. Oh, no. We were finding places in the state that would take a juvenile. We did what we could to control it. We were hard on them. And I hated to say it, but our job was to push them elsewhere, keep them out of Kenny County. And I think we did a pretty damn good job on it.
Well, what would make your job easier?
Well, right now, Trump being in office has made it a whole lot easier. Because since January 1, we've had 2 smuggling endeavors. And usually we've got average of 60 to 65 a month. We've only had 2 in the past 60 days. Normally we turn over 150, 200 illegal aliens to Border Patrol. So far, we've only turned over 3 in the past 60 days. So his plan is working. Now we just got to get everything else on board. And it shouldn't fall on the local sheriff or the local law enforcement to handle all of it. Some of it, yes, we can help out, but not all of it like we were having to, because the Border Patrol station here is 140 people. 130 of them were detailed out to handle paperwork.
Right.
So it left it all on us. We were getting calls from the ranchers. We were getting calls from DPS, the pursuits at the left and right. We had very little time to help the locals because of the pursuits, because of the rollovers, because of the accidents. The criminal element's never always going to sit still. They're going to look for a way around it. They're going to look for other means. And we always have to, I hate to say, but we're always 1 or 2 steps behind. But I think with the current administration, some of the people he's putting into place, we can at least be on the same dance floor in the same step. When I was in the Border Patrol, we had a team that came up from Guatemala, and we were helping the Guatemalans with their canine program so that they can try to interdict the drugs before they left Guatemala into Mexico to come this way. We can help them, but we can't help ourselves.
The good news, as you've learned very clearly here, is that since President Trump took over, things have gotten a lot better. At the same time, we're also hearing we need more people, and I think you're going to hear that throughout subsequent discussions. We need more people, more officers, more law enforcement. We need more surveillance technology. But the good news is, at least in those areas that we normally did not protect or surveil very carefully, we've got a lot of people who are now very happy with the fact that they're dealing with a fraction of the kinds of people that they were previously trying to arrest. While we were on the border with Pete, he took us to a place that I think is of importance to everyone watching. We met Lori and Steve Mercer, a couple of angelic figures who've been rescuing lives at the border, regardless of whether they were American, foreign, whatever, regardless of which direction they were headed in. And they've now built a very admirable system designed to help people that even the drug cartels have decided to leave alone.
We started here when?
97.
97. We've been here ever since, meeting the needs of people on both sides of the border, mostly with children's homes and medical hospitals, anything that's meeting the needs of children. We have had children here in the past, but due to COVID and the previous administration, things have kind of gotten to the point where things aren't playing very good. We have cartel across the street and problems that just are rather not necessary. In fact, a friend of mine, Katie had, 3 or 4 babies dumped off at her place at night.
On the river.
And it was a miracle they made it through the night. We're in the process of putting up our first children's home here on property that will serve between 8 and 12 children. Right now, we're trying to get assistance of the federal government to make everything legal and according to what God's will should be.
God and the government don't always go together very well, do they?
No, but the problem is we got Jesus on our side now. You know why? Because Trump's in office.
Well, I'm sure President Trump will be happy to hear
I
that.
think that he understands the same God I'm serving.
These are American heroes. These are the kind of people that are all over America, but you don't hear about them. You don't get to see them. Thank God that we had the chance to stop and see these people, because you drive through here, you see nothing for miles, and all of a sudden here is this refuge for children. You heard about babies left on the banks of the Rio Grande. Incomprehensible. But this is the sort of thing that goes on around here.
Right.
And these are the people that rescue those lives. Whether they're from our side or the other side makes no difference.
They're all God's children.
Folks, note that. We'll put the notes about this in the broadcast, because I think some of you will definitely want to contribute to this organization.
Thank you so much. We also have a website, so you can look us up on the internet. We are a 501c3 and have been for over 20-some years.
501c3. That's great. Lori, Stephen, thank you so much.
God bless you.
You're a wonderful person.
Thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
People like Lori and Steve Mercer are the reason America really is a great country, and we could not be more grateful for them. When we finished up with them, we took a drive to Eagle Pass, and we were back to our friend Pete Chambers, and he showed us the legal port of entry and explained what's been going on there, because frankly, that's where most of the drugs, illegal aliens, human trafficking, people that are being enslaved are coming through to reach our country. They're coming through the legal ports of entry. He gave us a great briefing on what he's been seeing and the people that need to be held accountable for what's happened to us.
A lot of the time you said there's the optics and then there's reality. And I wonder if you give us some clarity on that comment.
Sure, absolutely. So 40,000-foot view, optics is what you see on the news. When I don't see that marry up with what I'm seeing on the ground, I have to call it out to my superiors and say, hey, sir, ma'am, whatever, this is not what I'm seeing. Are we okay with this, right? Are we okay with what's happening? Example, in September of 2021, we're in Del Rio, Texas. Michael Yarn called me and said, hey, brother, former Green Beret to Green Beret. Hey, you're working the Texas border? Roger that. You got 17,000 Haitians inbound, roughly. These are harmless people. They're being used as pawns, etc. Understand that when in chaos, what I would do as a special operator is I would go through the seams and gaps, and I would look for the place where I can bring fentanyl, guns, you name it. It didn't matter. Marijuana, cocaine, it doesn't matter. The three things that we have coming north, I'm always going to say this, always will. Guns, drugs, and humans. But on the ground, when you're trying to stop them in a town that's less than 17,000 people, you just doubled the population with people that are not friendly to the United States. The locals actually started calling that port of entry Bidenville, because there's that many illegals coming across on a nightly basis. Now we've got 17,000 to add to the regular 12,000 a week that came across. 18 December 23, a large group of Venezuelans, 12,500 roughly, showed up in a 48-hour period. So I'm reporting on it, and then we find out from the Border Patrol there's like another 7,000 coming behind them. What's really happening? They put them on buses. They moved them Central Texas into the San Antonio Convention Center. Our guys followed them to see what they were doing with them. So they end up in downtown San Antonio, and immediately they're taken for jobs.
So they're effectively recruited in this country
by
the Venezuelan gangs that are already here.
transported by the system, the very system that's supposed to secure this border. And it goes beyond transfer migration, because this is now literally allowing terrorists to set up shop. That's where we're at. And if we can control this bleed right now, we can get ahead of the game. Otherwise, we're playing whack-a-mole all day long.
The existence of our republic is at stake. You understand that. People here who see this understand it, but too few Americans really grasp it.
All right, so obviously the port of entry.
Right.
There's another one that's further down. All right, it's a smaller one, but that one's connected to a train bridge. So that's the train we were talking about they were riding across on.
Right, I see.
All right, but this one is going to be your foot traffic bridge. All right, but you can see there's some vehicles on there on the lower level. There's a couple different levels.
Right.
So typically on a busy time down here, as I said before, We were seeing 900 or so. We had the couple large caravans that came through the Venezuelans, 12,500. But a typical night, 900 to 1,000. Right? When we were down here at the border at the height of Operation Lone Star, we did the best we could to contain it loose. But the problem, what they would do is they'd give them a court date. And they'd say, okay, well, your court date is 2 years from now, 3 years from now, until this was the Biden FU and the backside stuff. Okay. So what they would do is they'd be in Mexico. They would get on the app that Mayorkas had them put together, and they could then apply for asylum in Mexico, come across, show the QR code to the Border Patrol guy, and he'd have to let him go. I've watched him show up in Rio Grande Valley, the Anzadulas Bridge, 7,000 people under the bridge the night before.
This is Mr. Mayorkas.
Mr. Mayorkas. The next day, he's going to do a press conference from that same place. They brought him out, buses out in the middle of the night, took him out. We watched him do it, and there were about 700 people there, maybe 1,000. They said, this is all there is. And we're going to process these people and send them back.
Systematic lying. Yeah.
Systematic lying. If the guy's lips were moving, he was lying. Yeah. We need more on the border. And we've got to call out the traitors. There has to be some accountability.
Should be.
Yeah.
Well, Pete just gave us a glimpse into this broader tragedy on the border. Probably the best overall summation that I've seen anywhere. We're really grateful for the time that he spent with us. And now it's time to move a little further south and understand what's been going on down in Panama. We have just a man to tell us about that. Michael Yon needs no real introduction from me, and no one has watched this invasion of the United States set up, staged, and launched from Central America and Panama all the way to the border with the kind of meticulous attention to detail that Michael Yon has. He's a former Special Forces soldier with a lot of combat experience behind him. So this is someone that we go to for the ground truth. But the key thing is, what's really changed? Have we really made significant gains in this war against the cartels? Where are we?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news because it makes people, turn the channel and not listen to you. But I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing. The Darien Gap is still open. Bottom line, 112 were just released today from San Vicente camp in the Darien Gap. Now, up on the Texas border, I've been across the entire U.S. southern border. I've been to the northern border, not across the entire more than 5,000 miles up there, but I've been across from SpaceX to San Diego. It took months, and some of that was on the Mexican side, quite a lot of it actually. So I'm very familiar with it. I've watched the United States helping the invasion. When we blame the Mexican cartels for this, I'm watching the U.S. National Guard. I'm watching Texas Guard. I'm watching Texas law enforcement with my own eyes, closer than this camera, making videos. I'm watching Border Patrol load up literally tens of thousands over the months that I was there into the buses and into the interior of the United States. If we blame this on Panama or Colombia or something else, but it's the United Nations that's doing this, and we are the greatest funder, and our own military is openly helping, and I mean on video, hundreds of hours between me and Anthony Rubin and Ann Vandersteel and so many others. We have hundreds, if not thousands of hours collectively, certainly thousands of hours of our own officials bringing people over the border. So it's not over. You must defund the United Nations and start ripping out the plumbing. Otherwise, all this plumbing that is still open and active, for instance, to the Darien Gap, all the camps are there. They are operational and manned this morning. Right now, they're manned. They just released 112 people today from one of the camps that were supposedly being deported. They're not. They've been released into Panama. They're going to go straight to the United States. This is what they do. The cameras just focus in and make it look like a lot of people are leaving, when in fact, our own government admits that more than 8,000 were arrested at the southern border just in February, right? And having been across the entire border and knowing a lot of people in Border Patrol and all that, I know how they play with these numbers. The invasion is still occurring. There is no if we were seriously deporting people, the first thing we would do is rip out the United Nations, rip them out by the roots. The second thing is we wouldn't be talking about flights. We would be talking about ships. We would be sailing ships up the Mississippi River. We would be collecting people at Memphis and all over the place, and Miami and and Tampa and Los Angeles and San Francisco, New York, we would be putting them on ships, 500,000 a month, and getting them out.
Yeah, well, what you're, one of the other things that you're telling us, Michael, is that even if we started to deport people at this point, it would be a losing battle because more are still pouring into the country. In addition to a flood of illegals, there's a flood of cash. How do we deal with this effectively? Because there's no point in deporting a lot of people until we've actually shut this down.
I mean, it would be easy to shut. I've had so many people tell me we can't shut the Darien Gap. I'm like, listen, I would fire you if I were the commander if you said that. You're out, right? The moment you say we can't do it or our hands are, you're fired, right? A captain could shut down the Darien Gap, right? And our southern border is very similar. Now, I've been to SpaceX many dozens of times, maybe, I don't know, 50 or more, right? I spent a lot of time there with Burning Edge team and others. SpaceX is right there on the border by the Rio Grande. There are literally aliens coming across onto SpaceX property while aliens are getting ready to go to Mars from there, right? They're not even guarding the SpaceX property, right? So all across the border is like this. First thing you do is take out their infrastructure, as you know, because right now we're like fighting Mike Tyson while slapping his gloves. We're slapping his gloves and he's looking at us. By pushing on the borders like that, what we have to do is we're just slapping his gloves. We have to go after the people who are doing it, like Catholic Charities, like HIAS, like Lutheran Services. We're not going after any of these people. We're not going after IOM, which is the United Nations IOM. They were still they're operating right now today at Panama Airport. They're operating in Istanbul 4 days ago or 4 days ago when Masako went through. If we don't defund them, we're just slapping Mike Tyson's gloves. We need to go for his face.
Looks are deceiving. Those great crowds are gone. And your point is, all right, the crowds are gone, but that hasn't ended the invasion, correct?
Has not. All the plumbing is still in effect. Go check into the Holiday Inn, walk around, Ciudad de Cervera, and you'll see more than 60 NGOs, IGOs, and other sorts of nonprofits that are destroying the United States. We gave that away for $1. We gave the whole canal. We gave Fort Clayton and all that, and all these different bases. We gave them away, and now it's being used to invade us, literally invade us.
Michael, where can people find you who want to know more about you and the kind of work you're doing?
I'm on Substack. I go to X every day, but I'm starting to transition over to Substack. I'll be publishing in about 30 minutes about the things that are going on in the Darien today.
And I appreciate your candor and straightforward manner today very much. No one out there compares with him when it comes to understanding the truth as it is on the ground regarding this terrible invasion. It's cost us billions and billions of dollars, but more important, the lives of too many Americans. So thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Doug.
Next, we're going to talk to J.J. Carrell, a brilliant author who served for 23 years in the Border Patrol. Somebody who's really been where the metal meets the road. I think he's going to give you a broader perspective because he's going to take in the entire border, talk about immigration, illegal immigration, what's happening inside the country, some of the things that Pete Chambers mentioned, and give us a very important overview of what we really need to do. We've done a lot right. We have a lot more to do. So tell us, give us the big picture. What's happened since President Trump came in and what is there that still needs to be done?
Well, the very first thing that happened under Donald Trump on day one, he closed the border down. Closed it down. And that goes against everything that the left has been saying for the last 4 years because they were having cover for President Biden, saying, well, this is a broken border policy and we need new laws and Congress has to do it. The president can't do it. And that's all a lie because I witnessed it in my whole career. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. So I witnessed all the genesis of this treason, and it is treason. They opened the border. 30 million people came in 4 years. If you want to just go off of their data, they admit to 18 million in 4 years. So 4.5 million people poured into America every single year. And I'm telling you that number is closer to 7 to 8 million. That has been a lie told to us for decades that we need to have more laws. No, we didn't. We just needed to have a president with a backbone and spine and said, this is what we're going to do and shut it down.
Why do you think they deliberately wanted to introduce millions and millions of people into the country, many of whom are criminals, many of whom are connected in some way to organized crime or worse, terrorist organizations? What possible point did that have?
No one asked the three-letter word, why? The question, why? And I believe, and I've done this for 24 years, I wrote 2 best-selling books, and I went on and filmed a documentary series. I'm telling you with complete certainty that the United States federal government decided to weaponize illegal immigration to fundamentally transform America, and they were going to do it through demographics. This was not a race-based demographic shift, meaning there's 180 nations in the Border Patrol arrest data out of 195 nations. So the whole world is here. This was a demographic shift from citizens to non-citizens. So the answer, the true answer to the why, is they wanted a demographic shift. And here's another part of this, and they openly admit this. Because they flooded all the major metropolitan blue cities with tens of millions of illegal aliens, they know by 2030, if they are allowed to count illegal aliens in the census, they will flip the House seats by almost 60. 60 seats will be flipped from red to blue in demographics, and it's over. If they don't accelerate the arrest in the interior and deport, the left will have won this war.
No, I think you're right. The other aspect of this thing that is rarely mentioned is that our financial system is fragile. Our economy is not strong, contrary to what people think. This is not Donald Trump's fault. He inherited this. But as we go forward, there's a great risk that if the economy fails and the financial system should collapse for some reason, how do we fund all of these aliens? In other words, the freebies that they're accustomed to, free health care, free education, free whatever, free cash, they're not going to have it. We should expect them at that point to commit more crimes, should we not?
Yes, that's a big deal. And you're seeing that now in Chicago, in the big cities, New York, where the funding has stopped. So now how are you going to fund? How's New York City, that's running about $6 billion deficit on illegal aliens? Look at the state of California. Last year, they came back and revised their number on healthcare. I'm not talking about welfare, incarceration, free WIC cards. I'm just talking about healthcare. $9.6 billion on healthcare paid to illegal aliens. They're in the red by tens of billions of dollars. California is going to implode financially, and they are an example of what will happen to the United States of America. We will implode. You have 50 million people that are absolutely 100% dependent on federal funds to survive. We are now, I believe, witnessing the awakening of America, and we've just seen the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the giant iceberg of fraud, deceit, and treason. I believe that everything that Joe Biden did with the Obama cabal and the Clintons and everyone else and the Rhino Republicans, they committed treason against America. They tried to destroy the United States of America. I believe that. And ultimately, I want justice. Do I think I'll get it? I don't know if I'll get it.
And this is the existential threat to our republic. Nothing happening overseas comes close to the danger right now inside our country and south of the border. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on. God bless you and keep up the good work, and we'll all struggle to make this work somehow in the United States.
Thank you very much, sir. Always an honor to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, JJ. JJ gave us a snapshot of a nationwide crisis that requires much more than the Border Patrol, much more than customs officers. It also requires a military component. We need the U.S. Army on the border. And that's really where we wanted to get at this point, because this problem is too big for anybody just in Texas or Arizona or California or New Mexico to solve. As somebody said, today, every state is a border state. A lot of Americans wonder on a routine basis, what's the real financial, economic impact of illegal immigrants on the American economy? And so for that, we turn to our in-house financial expert, Mel Mattison. Take it away, Mel.
Thanks, Doug. Look, I took a look at the government statistics, which, granted, are not the best, but that's what we have to work with. And unfortunately, the numbers are much, much worse than I ever expected. I thought maybe we'd have equal growth of foreign-born, native-born employment. But oh no, under Biden, get this, we created 3.5 million jobs for foreign-born workers, and we lost on net 716,000 jobs for native-born. This is, once again, Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers, nothing made up, coming straight from employment reports. 3.5 million jobs for foreign-born, minus 716,000 for native-born underneath the Biden administration.
It's hard to believe that the American worker has been the victim yet again of illegal immigration, but it looks that way.
It's not even just being the victim. It's just absolutely bamboozled. Like, this is like, okay, we're taking your job, we're giving it to someone else, and this is the key, only a small percentage of those who crossed the border actually took jobs. And when you look at the number of, and this is in government statistics, unemployment numbers, the increase in unemployment rate of foreign-born was 50% compared to a 10 or so percent increase in native-born. In other words, the unemployment rolls exploded. Now, adding those social service costs, guess what you get to? Over $15,000 per year, per household, per immigrant. If there's 10 million households, we're talking over $150 billion a year. If it's closer to 20 billion, we're talking $300 billion a year that this is costing us. So it's not only costing jobs, it's also sapping the taxes that we're paying.
Well, clearly, this is not a net benefit to the American people, especially to the American worker. Thanks very much for that shocking and sobering insight. And we'll take it with us as we press ahead and look more at immigration and the border. Thanks.
Thank you.
The numbers that Mel Mattison provided, he's our in-house economist, pretty grim. Tragedy has a human face here. Illegal immigration has worked badly for everyone involved in it. The only people who profit are organized criminals, the cartels. So now let's move on to something more positive, something that we need and we should pay more attention to. It's called legal immigration. We want people to understand that Americans like legal immigration. Americans don't like millions and millions of migrants pouring into the country who are not invited. So with that, Frank, tell us a little bit about what it's like to grow up in a family where your parents are immigrants.
Yes, my father came over from Italy in 1932, but by 1940 he was in the United States Army. So, and it was interesting that it was a prerequisite when you came to this country that you had to learn English. So they went to these schools that learned to speak English. And my uncle Danny, his brother, was highly decorated in the Army Air Corps. He was a gunner. And so they were very proud of the fact. My grandparents really never had to speak English that much because my grandfather was a barber. So basically everyone that came to his barbershop spoke Italian. But, you know, they came here, they paid their taxes, they raised their kids to believe in America. Myself, my brother, and I went to military school. My oldest brother, Tom, was in the Army for 20 years, was a Warrant Officer 5 when he got out. These people that came over from like Ireland, my neighbors were Irish, mostly Irish, German, Polish, some Italian, some Jewish. They were all very pro-American. I mean, it was like, you know, there were always flags on Flag Day. There was always flags out and stuff like that. So they were very proud of that.
Well, you're also pointing to something else. The vast majority of people that we admitted to the United States were literate. That's hugely important. And right now we have millions of people that have come into this country, many of whom can't even read their own language.
Again, I have people that work for me that came from El Salvador, and they are legal.
Yes.
They pay their taxes. Their kids are now in college. One's going to be a doctor. And they came here with nothing, and they actually built good businesses. And the thing is, they will benefit from Social Security at one time, Medicare at one time, and as time goes on.
These people haven't had to work to get here, per se. In other words, your parents, many, many others who came from Europe, it was not something you woke up in the morning and said, well, I think we'll immigrate to America next week.
They had to save all their pennies, everything they had. My grandfather was here before my grandmother, and he worked, like I said, as a barber. And he sent money back to Italy, and they came, they came on a ship steerage.
You have an opportunity here because we think the president may watch this episode. We're hoping because it's on border and immigration. What can you tell him that the American people really need to understand about the difference between someone like you, who's a product of what you've described, which was entirely legal? It was hard, it was difficult, but it was legal. And somebody who just shows up at the border, is handed money, is handed a phone, is handed essentially Social Security benefits, phony Social Security numbers, and then health care.
Well, Doug, I'm not a political pundit, but what I am is an American, a concerned American, that I'm 74 years old, have paid taxes, and have seen the American dream come true, through hard work and perseverance. And I think, again, we do welcome people from other countries. Just come in legally. It's and hopefully we can, because the excuse we have that takes too long, hopefully we can speed it up if they are, approved to come in this country.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.
Doug, thank you very, very much. God bless.
People came here because they wanted to be here. People gave up everything they had to gain legal entry. And when they came in, they went hard to work because they wanted their children to ultimately be Americans. It's a great story. We don't tell it enough. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we'll wrap up our visit to the border and revisit some of these discussion points that we've had.
Thomas Shalafo is not just a leader with over 30 years of experience. He is also a devoted father and husband. He understands the importance of protecting families. He will fight to balance the budget, secure the border, and stop inflation. For Thomas, it's not about politics. It's about doing what's right for all of our families.
I'm Thomas Shalafo, and I approve this message because we need a fighter in Washington, not a politician.
Paid for by Shalafo for Congress.
Introducing Republic, an entirely new kind of social media. Republic focuses on local, giving activists, organizations, candidates, and small businesses the power to inform, organize, and act. No more covering up the truth. No more advertising-funded news. No more data mining. This is how we rebuild, rekindle, and restore our republic.
Thank you for joining us for the first edition of Macgregor. We promise you the truth, and we will take no prisoners in our search for it. If we are in error, we will be the first to admit it and correct it. But we plan to check and recheck our facts as much and as often as we can. Today, we close out the first edition in San Antonio, Texas, at a place called the Alamo. 189 years ago, the roughly 200 Americans, including a handful of Tejanos defending the Alamo, answered the Mexican Army's demand for surrender with cannon fire. For 13 days, the small garrison held off the Mexican Army. But finally, on 6 March 1836, when 3,000 Mexican soldiers stormed the Alamo, the American defenders were overwhelmed. Every man defending the wall around the Alamo was killed. But their determined stand was not in vain. 6 weeks later, General Sam Houston led his men into battle against the same Mexican army with the words, "Remember the Alamo." The Mexican army was destroyed in 18 minutes. The men of the Alamo did not simply secure independence for Texas. When Texas joined the Union, they established America's border along the Rio Grande and set the stage for America's emergence as a great continental power from the Atlantic to the Pacific. If there is a wall where Americans should pray, it's the wall that surrounds the Alamo. It is, in fact, an altar of faith in our country, proof that we Americans will always fight for our country, our people, and our rights. So when you hear about America's struggle to defend the border, the hundreds of thousands of Americans who died from fentanyl poisoning, the untold numbers of women and children trafficked across the border. Think back to the passion and values of those who defended the Alamo. If this crisis at our border is not our Alamo, then we may not survive. So, remember the Alamo. This is our view from Our Country, Our Choice headquarters in Orlando, Florida. Thanks for listening.
Our people must be well informed with the truth for us to make educated decisions. It's time to take our nation back.